It's back. He hits two back. He's done it. Sharma has done it. And the end, delirious.
Hello and welcome to The Last Wicket, a cricket podcast where the hits keep coming, much like shots from the bat of Karen Pollard. I'm your host, Benny, and this week we will be speaking with Gurkirat Singh Gill, wannabe cricket analyst and passionate Delhi Capitals fan. We talked to him about the evolution of the Delhi franchise over the years, the fandom that IPL teams command, the ever shifting identity of the franchises, and much, much more. So, Gurkirat Singh Gill, welcome to The Last Wicket.
Thank you, Benny. Thank you, Himanish. Good to be here. Always happy to talk cricket at whatever time of the day. That is one thing that gives you respite most of the days. And in current scenario, thank God for cricket. Honestly,
Right.
there is nothing else to fall back onto. I'm not much of a reader, so that doesn't help. And Bollywood cinema, the less said, the better it is. So yeah, so sport
Well,
is the only thing that keeps you sane.
I was also going to say today's a good day for you as a Delhi Capitals fan. It's weird to see them at the top of the table. So, how do you feel?
Honestly, I started to have a fear that a lot of Indian fans have had with the Indian team. It's becoming too top heavy.
Mm,
I sense that the middle order is not getting a lot of workout, to be honest. And when they got one, they couldn't finish off the game, and they are
right.
yet to defend the total successfully. It went to a super over versus SRH. So although the bowling is doing well, but you're winning games, but I still don't think it's a robust 11 which it can be. You have to probably make two changes, and it can be a very robust 11 if if you look at it. Steve Smith can go out, Sam Billings can come in, and probably Marcus Stoinis can go out, and Nokia can come in, because
Right.
if that happens, you have Shimron Hetmeyer who can bat at 3, Rishabh Pant who can bat at 4. Then you can have Lalit Yadav at 5, Billings at 6, and Akshar Patel at 7 with 4 bowlers. But I doubt if Delhi are ever going to play with 4 pacers. So I don't think that Stoinis will go out. But one change should definitely happen, and that is Steve Smith going out, and Sam Billings comes coming in, because that
Right.
will also release a lot of pressure off Pant, because uh, I somehow feel he's still not been able to figure out what tempo he wants to bat at, because uh,
Right.
either he's going too hard or he's taking too much time. So I don't know, and you cannot expect the likes of Prithvi and Shikhar to do well and bail you out every game, which is happening of the out of the games that they've won so far. I don't think any game has been one where both of them haven't, or either one of them hasn't scored.
Right.
So yeah, I would ideally want them to win a game now when both the openers are dismissed inside the power play, or while they are defending a 170 or a 180 odd.
I'm surprised that they're so adamant on persisting with Steve Smith. And prior to that, it was Ajinkya Rahane. I think in one of your tweets earlier, you did mention that. I mean, Rishabh Pant or even actually Shikhar Dhawan could play the role that Steve Smith is playing to some extent, where they can just, if you need to stabilize the innings, you have the batsman already. And Steve Smith does not have the gears like some of the other international batsmen in their side. So why this stubbornness to stick with him when you have other capable batsmen in your ranks? Is it just the case of the name being, bigger than the actual skills?
It probably is, and I think it's also because the coach is an Australian. Probably if the coach wouldn't have been Australian, then we wouldn't have seen this. But yeah, I've mentioned it before that if you need someone to play an anchor, Shikhar can do it. Even Pant can do it. Pant has done that against better bowling lineups in Test matches. So I don't see. In fact, if you see the game versus Mumbai, which Delhi won chasing 130 odd in Chennai, Lalit Yadav also doesn't seem to be a batsman who's just a slogger. He was also able to play out 25, 26 deliveries and hold one end up. Probably he could have done better, but it's not that he's the kind of batsman who can't save his wicket, or he can't rotate strikes. So, uh, I mean, I just think they're too conservative. It's just that things are working well for them. They've not been yet, faced the brunt of it. But it can come back to bite them at some stage, because see, if the way they look at it, I think they feel that okay, they only lost to RCB by 1 run, which was just about one hit, and it could have come from Pant if he because if he usually bats that long, 50 deliveries, he will obviously end up by
Yeah.
more than 62. So I think they're thinking that that it was just Pant's off day. And similarly against Rajasthan, they would feel that it was Morris playing well, when they don't realize. See, one thing is that, and I've figured it out with this with all IPL teams, is that till the time they don't lose, they don't make changes. And you can see this pattern with every team. Like, I think sometimes the cliche that you don't fix anything that isn't broken is taken too far. People
Right.
don't realize while talking of this that you can you there are different grades of steel, right? There's a stainless steel, there's a mild steel, and then there's a hard steel. All of them have different capacities. If your stainless steel can do the job to till some extent, but when the pressure is going to be more, it is going to collapse. So teams don't understand that okay, this is working for them, but when they have to punch above their weight, or if they are going to find in a difficult or a different kind of a scenario, that may not work. So it might not have been broken till yet, but there is no guarantee that it won't get broken when the pressure is more, which has happened with the Indian team as well. If you look at the period of 2017 to 2019, or even
Right. With Chahal and Kuldeep, they persisted with them, but
yeah. So
right,
or, not just that, I was getting to the number 4 scenario. Or you look at
right.
the period between 2015 to 2017. Uh, Ashwin and Jadeja were going for runs left, right, and center, but they weren't dropped till the time they actually lost the Champions Trophy. There was no reason for Yuvraj Singh to come back into the Indian side. See, if you look at Yuvraj Singh's last 5 years of international cricket, you will find out that every time he came back to the Indian squad, he was dropped after one series because he was struggling. He was definitely struggling for time and pace whenever he had to face quick bowling. He could do well on the back foot because he would get that extra second. But whenever he was forced to come on the front foot, he was getting beaten for pace. So he would go back to domestic cricket, score runs, score a few runs in the IPL, and then come back. And I think that was purely down to the selectors selecting the name rather than the performance and skills, because there's always going to be a difference in the levels which Ranji Trophy or an Indian domestic cricket is played at, and then the international level, which is something that we have found out with the likes of Prithvi Shaw as well. I know he scored a lot of runs, and then he scored a lot. He scored 100 against West Indies. But what people didn't realize at that point of time is that that 100 came in Rajkot and versus a West Indies bowling attack that did not have Jason Holder or Kimar Roach. And just on basis of that one innings, you cannot be seeing that, say that okay, we have had a player. So these are the things that sometimes teams do talk of processes, but I think the processes are only talked about as a justification when they have lost something. But it's mostly result oriented. Definitely in Indian cricket,
Right.
I feel, even in the franchises, because if you look at even this IPL, the Chennai side, everyone has been talking of them even before the IPL began, that they do not have a death bowler, and they really don't. They've lost 2 games where they have had to defend, and they've narrowly missed out losing another game when they had a team down for 31 for 5 and defending 220.
Right.
So
Right.
I will not be surprised if somewhere down the line Dwayne Bravo is brought in to the 11 once again, when Dhoni feels that he needs someone who can sort of do something at the death, because
Control the death overs. Yeah.
not every time he's going to win the toss. And after Delhi, the 5 games that Chennai play are in Kolkata and Bangalore, where you really can't defend. And you know, I thought yesterday Chennai had 20 runs more than what was par, but still they ended up losing. So I definitely sense that one of Chennai or Bangalore are going to slip up and not reach the final four, because their bowling isn't good enough. It's flattered to it's performed more than what everyone expected. With say someone like a Harshal Patel, I know he's taken 17 wickets and he was brilliant in Chennai, but he cannot be your go-to death bowler in every game. And Bangalore are going to play 5 games in Kolkata, where Harshal Patel cannot bowl 4 overs. You need to utilize his batting. He's
Right.
your 2 or 3 overs bowler, and they need to get in Navdeep Saini and
Right.
give him that confidence. But I doubt if that is going to happen till the time they don't lose 2 consecutive games. And it just so happens in the IPL and in Indian cricket as well that sometimes the teams do pick the right 11, but the opposition has played well or the execution has fallen, and then they've gone back to something that they were safe with, and then
Right.
expose themselves once again. So
Right. So they don't sort of identify process and result well, you're saying.
yeah, it's
Right?
just
Yeah.
a cliche that's there. I think a lot of teams don't have that conviction only. MS Dhoni has, but sometimes he has had too much of that conviction, which is
Yeah, like with Shardul Thakur.
yeah. And that conviction has been the reason for him winning those trophies, and that conviction has been the reason for him eventually losing out on a lot of series post 2011, and most certainly post 2013, like not having Robin Uthappa in the World T20 squad of 2014 and 2016 would be one example, or not playing Amit Mishra enough and persisting with a Piyush Chawla, or keep going back to Murli Vijay and the likes. So it's just about it that I'm yet to in whatever uh, cricket that I have seen, I've rarely found a captain who's actually said that okay, we believe in the process and we have complete conviction about it, and followed it to a hilt. So yeah, that's how things go, I think, in Indian cricket for sure.
Very fascinating. I think Rabada's loss of form is also concerning for DC because usually, like 2 years ago at least, he was a bank for them. But since then, he's been sort of dwindling and waning, right? And that's a concern for them. Do you think?
It is, but honestly, today was the first game in the IPL for Rabada where he took 2 wickets in the power play. Uh, I,
Yeah.
I I saw that I saw that he's taken 2 wickets, and I was just wondering when was the last time he took it. I remember last season he only took 1 wicket in the power play, so I went back and
Yep.
saw the scorecard of all 2019 games and 2017. 2018 he didn't play, and it was the first time. So I think uh, more than the wickets, what he's been instrumental with is stopping the runs at the back end, and I think he's gotten into the mindset that Jofra was, particularly 2 years ago, where he would try a slower ball just for no reason. And whenever Rabada's trying that slower ball, he's going for runs. He went for that six versus Suchit on that slower ball. Got hit for a six from Morris in Wankhede on a slower ball, and versus Russell as well. There's no reason for him to try those slower balls or those short deliveries which are not banged in at complete pace, and it can only be because he thinks that he's not confident about his Yorkers. But if you look at the last 2 games versus RCB and versus KKR, he still nailed them. So I think he's peaking, but to expect that he's going to repeat that 2019 season seems difficult at this point of time, which is why I feel that Nokia probably needs to come in.
Right. Now, staying on DC, right? They've come a long way from their Daredevils days. They placed their faith in Pant and Shaw and Iyer, and they've done well. Where do they go from here? So once we have the next auction, whom are they retaining, and what should they try to do?
I think there are quite a lot of options that they that they'd be stretched about in terms of retention. Pant is obviously a sure shot. Then I think they'll also probably retain Iyer. I don't think Iyer is one of the best T20 batsmen that are around, but even in his absence, you sort of feel that they are forced to play a Smith or a
Right, because
Rahane.
he's not there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he's not there. Because even though he may not, he would have his issues with express fast bowling and the short ball particularly. What he would still do well is he would not let the likes of Deepak Hooda go for just a few runs. He would obviously take them for 10 runs a minimum. That is where I think he's better than the likes of Manish Pandey. Manish Pandey
Yeah.
played one of his better innings versus Chennai that day, but that was 46 balls, 61 runs. Again, less than 8 runs per over. So I think that is the reason why people don't rate him highly in the format. But with what Shreyas did in the fourth T20 uh, versus England, where he came at number 6 and still played that cameo, so he's definitely working on his game. So I think he
Yeah.
will get retained. Also because he's been around with the franchise for 6 years now. He was signed
Yeah.
after 2014 Under 19 World Cup, so he would
Right.
definitely get retained. Then there is there are going to be other options. There's certainly going to be a debate on Shikhar. There's certainly going to be a debate on
Sure.
Ashwin. Shaw's there. I think Shaw will definitely get retained because he's young, has a lot of years on his hand. Can potentially develop into one of the Indian greats in the future. Helps in building that brand which Delhi have particularly focused on. If you look at the Delhi teams all over the years, they've always been the franchise that has invested a lot in youngsters because after 2012 they had signed an Unmukh Chand. Before that, yeah, in 2008 they had signed Pradeep Sangwan. So they've always looked to sign players who've come in from the under 19 setup. There was Karun Nair who was in the squad. There was Sanju Samson. There was Rishabh Pant, obviously. There was Manjot Kalra. Manjot Kalra didn't get a game, but they still signed him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now also you see that even Avesh Khan has been with the DC setup for 3 years. May not
Right.
have played a lot. So definitely these Pant, Shaw, and Iyer would definitely get retained. The others would be, a debate whether if Hetmyer gets a good season, maybe he might also be up for discussion. Then Rabada and Nokia for sure because Nokia they got as a replacement for 1.5 CR, but today if he goes into back into the auction, he would easily go for more than 10.
Right.
So a lot of names that would be up for discussion, and I think they are going to follow a plan which is going to be pretty similar to what Mumbai Indians have done over the years when they've looked to retain most of their core. But yeah, it's going to be a tough call, and they'll also have to work on on maintaining and keeping that core as much as possible. But there are going to be a few players that they will lose out on for sure. Like how MI lost out on someone like a Nitish Rana. That is always going to happen. You can't help it.
Right. Right.
Well, on a similar note, because you talked about the players, but I'm also very curious about the brand of DC, Delhi Capitals. But when you look at, for example, the Royal Challengers Bangalore, Mumbai Indians, Chennai Super Kings, apart from the players that they retain or the players that they have, the brand that's really stood the test of time ever since the IPL has begun. And of course, Delhi has gone through so many avatars, and now the current one is Delhi Capitals. And the feeling that I get is there is a disconnect, right? Like from the city, Delhi. There doesn't seem to be a cultural connect. What do you think? Do you agree with that, or do you have your own thoughts on that?
There is because see if you look at other teams, if you look at a Mumbai Indians, Mumbai belongs to a state which is Maharashtra, and they do have a cultural identity. If you see the majority that lives in Maharashtra, they are the Maharashtrians, and they have a certain language. They have certain ways. Similarly, for a Chennai Super Kings, it's easy. So there are a lot of teams that are based on a state, and hence it is easier to replicate that identity. In the case of even Bangalore, SRH, these four teams that are from South India and west of South India. Similarly, it is easier for Punjab Kings also to build that identity. It's just that they've not been able to. They've not marketed that well. KKR also sort of built an identity where they had a Bengali song and everything. As far as Delhi is concerned, Delhi doesn't have one single culture. You will find an amalgamation of all the demographics that the country has in Delhi. Say if you move to a central or an old Delhi, you will find a lot of culture and everything. The ways is related to the Mughal period, the cuisine, the ways and everything. Then when you'll move towards the West Delhi, you will find a lot of Punjabi influence in the culture. You'll find a lot of Sikh population. You will find a lot of Punjabi Hindu population. When you move towards South Delhi, then there you will find people who are from different states. There are also predominantly Bengali colonies. Say if you go to a CR Park. So it's difficult to have one single identity because there are people who are living in the city from all different parts of country, and a lot of them say a lot of central government offices are also there, so people are transferred. There are people who come to the city as government officers or government servants, and live here for 2 or 3 years. So it's difficult for Delhi to have one identity because people from all parts of country live here. That's about it. Hence it's to have just one part would be doing injustice, and hence I think it's the most difficult demographic for any marketing agency to nail, because whichever part culture you leave out, that culture is going to feel offended, and the times are such that people take offense very easily, very easily. So
Yeah.
it's better to play safe and have a I'd say I wouldn't necessarily say that it's identity less, because there's obviously that lingo that the social media team works upon, and the lingo in Delhi is a combination of 3 or 4 languages. It is not pure Hindi, it's not pure Punjabi, and it's not pure Urdu. It's of 4 languages. It's Hindi, English, Punjabi, and Urdu. And I'll uh, I'll I'll say this, that if you ask most of the people who live in Delhi to differentiate between what is an Urdu word, what is a Hindi word, and what is a Punjabi word, a lot of them won't be able to. A lot of them won't be able. So that is the challenge, and hence very difficult to find one identity and work on it. So better to keep it as much as multilingual and multicultural possible.
Very beautiful about Delhi. Now I'll stay in Delhi and I'll talk to you about the Firozshah Kotla, because a lot of people abuse it, left, right, and center. But I've had really good experiences there. I've had good food around the matches in Old Delhi. Uh, what's your life at the Kotla been like?
So my first game at Kotla was in 2005. It was the game where Sachin Tendulkar broke Sunil Gavaskar's record for 34 centuries. It was versus Sri Lanka, the test match in December. Then I went. My first IPL game in Kotla was rained out in the very first season versus it was Delhi versus KKR. Then I had gone for a India versus England game. Virat Kohli scored 100. Gautam Gambhir scored a brilliant 80. It was India won. Then I've also watched that semi-final of the World T20 2016 between England and New Zealand at the same ground. So I've watched quite a few games at Kotla. The after-match experience is always good, because there, like you said, it's in Old Delhi. There are a lot of good eateries, so you can always watch the game and then go to Old Delhi, go to Jama Masjid and that place, and eat whatever you
Right.
want. And if you're a
Right.
non-vegetarian, then it's a delight for you. What I would
Right.
do on most days is that I would park my car, either in Bangla Sahib Gurdwara or somewhere in CP.
Oh, okay.
Eat, if I have a lot of time on my hands, then I'll go to the Gurdwara. Just uh, go there, stay there for 15 minutes, then eat something outside, or even sit and have some langar. Then take an auto, or even take a metro. Now there's a metro that goes till.
Yeah. Yeah.
So very multiple ways of going to Kotla. It's just that the stadium itself hasn't really upgraded itself, apart from getting floodlights in 2008 before the IPL. They really need to work on the infrastructure of the stadium, because, and I think that is all that's become the case with a lot of Indian venues, where the one reason I feel why test matches don't get a lot of viewership in stadium is because they don't have a roof. And the Indian cricket season is in summers of India, and 30
Right.
35 degrees,
Right.
or 30 35 degrees is the minimum. It can touch 40 45.
Right.
And to watch a game, a day game without a roof becomes very difficult, and sometimes even the washrooms aren't clean. So watching a game in India in most stadiums can be a very difficult experience, which is why you don't see a lot of viewership when it comes, but not in stadiums. So that one aspect is something which the BCCI really needs to work upon, and it's something that even Rahul Dravid has acknowledged. I remember when he was doing the Bradman Oration in 2011, he spoke of how the most important stakeholder in the game, which are the fans, they need to be taken care of in lot more ways than just one. He spoke of how we need to do away with irrelevant ODI series. Don't need to have 7 ODI game series, and
Yeah.
to have better facilities at stadiums, because he said fans are what make a sport it is. Because, and he quoted this example. He said that India has a lot of sports persons from a lot of different sports, but only the cricketers get that acknowledgement and love from the people. So the board needs to look after the fans, and that really doesn't happen, you see. Because,
Right.
and
Right.
it's not just limited to the stadiums. It's down to every single thing. If you see the coverage also, the coverage of any Indian series, I'd say, is pathetic, honestly.
Right. And the fans don't have other options, right? So they have to listen to it.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
there's a reason why Twitter as a platform has grown for sports content and particularly cricket content, because you have a lot of people who speak a lot more sense than what they do on the pre-match or the post-match show. I remember
right,
when I was
right.
growing up, I used to, always look forward to India's overseas tours, because I would know that it would be telecast on ESPN Star. I would have a very good sports broadcasting team that would cover it. There would be Alan Wilkins, Harsha Bogle, Ravi Shastri, Wasim Akram, Tony Greig, Jeffrey Boycott. Yeah, it's just become, too much masala. I mean, it's just become a, how do I say? It might sound a little rude, but it's become a mixture of, a high level coffee with Karan with some Indian soap script mixed into it. There are
Very well put. Very, very well put.
Well, let's talk about the most important stakeholders of the game, the fans themselves. Now, you've had some experience working for for an agency that has worked with the Delhi franchise in the past, as far as brand building or handling social media. I just want to I'm curious to know about your experiences when you did that work.
So when I was, working with that agency which was looking after this brand, the brief was that the team is going to, look at a new identity and, look at a fresh start, because when you've not qualified for 6 seasons and have become a bunch, like just an easy way or an easy target for trolls, then it's very difficult to, even run the whole system financially, because see, if team is not respected on social media, it becomes difficult to get those sponsors as well, which are a huge stream of revenue for a lot of IPL teams. If you look at an IPL, one on the chest, there are two on the sleeves, both sides. There are two on the cap, one on the side, one on the front. Then there are two on the trousers, both sides. So there's roughly easily 10 sponsors. There are two on the back as well, one below the number and one above. So it's a very important game for franchisees to have that social media following, because a lot of those sponsorships do come through that, and eventually performances is what drives your social media. A lot of people confuse social media to be very different from the on-field performances. They sometimes feel that social media can be sustained without on-field performances, which isn't true, because social media is only an extension of what the team does on field. Say if your
Right.
team has lost badly, what can social media do? Whatever post you do, your fans are going to be angry and probably not going to engage. So uh, both the things go hand in hand. There's a reason why Mumbai and Chennai have more than 5 million followers on Twitter, as opposed to what Punjab and Delhi have, and other teams. Punjab and Delhi have I think around 2 million only. So you see why that difference is. So they wanted to change that whole identity. They wanted to bring in a fresh approach where they do more content which is centric to the people. So in the last couple of years, what you'll see is that there are a lot of interviews of fans. Fans are getting involved. A lot of times when teams are getting trolled, there's a feeling that that comes up with this team doesn't have too many fans. Like you really don't see people talking about a fan base for a Punjab Kings or a fan base for a Rajasthan Royals, because they also don't do those stories where fans are involved. So one of the briefs was to sort of make it more fan centric and keep engaging with them. Even if you've lost games and they're criticizing, try and engage with them so that the fans feel that okay, they are being looked after, and run a lot of fan contests where you validate by giving them a team jersey or something. The other point was that, like I said, because Delhi never used to do well, anyone who's watched IPL games at Kotla will tell you that a game versus Mumbai Indians never used to feel like a home game for Delhi. A game versus Chennai Super Kings or even an RCB, because Virat Kohli was an RCB, never used to feel like a home game for Delhi. You would probably see more yellow t-shirts in the crowd at Kotla when Chennai were playing, more red t-shirts. So that was there. So the focus was on distributing blue jerseys to fans who come to the stadium, and make them win those tickets or something, so that people are just brought into the stadium, and if the performances are good, then they will get connected to the franchise, which eventually happened over the last 2
I think that's what, for example, Chennai Super Kings and Mumbai Indians, I feel like one of the reasons why they've got such a good fan base and their social media game is on point. They won quite a few trophies. And even that happened with KKR too. Once they won a couple of titles, like their fan base or their social media presence increased. I think RCB is a little bit different. Even though they have nothing, they still have the likes of Virat Kohli and De Villiers, and that in itself commands that. And I wonder if that's, like you mentioned, if that's what's happening to Delhi, that even though they haven't won a title yet, they've really worked hard on cultivating the fan base in the last couple of years or in the last few years. I mean, I remember seeing last year they did a lot of videos where they talked to the players too, and then they involved the players' families. They made them human, is I think what was their biggest point, at least last year. So how do you see that contributing to not necessarily performance of the field, because that's not going to do anything, but do you see that as a way for them to cultivate a fan base that will stick with them through times like this, when even when they're not winning or even they're not winning trophies, they still want to hold on to that fan base?
See, the what you mentioned about bringing in players' families. What you have to understand, among Indian audiences, emotions are always going to sell, regardless of what it is, whether it is cinema, whether it is politics, whether it is cricket. Emotions are going to sell, and that has also been one point of consideration for teams that have done well. Someone like a Virat Kohli, even if the team hasn't done well, his one of the good things about him is that when he speaks, and a lot of people will say that he speaks from the heart. He's never making stuff up. So when he says that, okay, he genuinely cares about the fans, you get that feeling, which is why a lot of fans have stuck around the RCB as well. And even they might not have won the trophies, but up in the first 10 seasons, they still had 3 finals. So it was not a hopeless case or a hopeless scenario anyway. Similarly, so in that respect, only the Punjab franchise has been, you can say sort of hopeless, because they've only made the playoffs only twice, and once in 2008 and then in 24. Apart from that, there has been nothing. With Delhi also, the first 5 seasons, there were 3 playoff appearances. It was just that when the icon players were going out, they were finishing at the bottom, not even say fifth or sixth. I remember in 2013 they finished eighth, in 2014 they finished eighth, then they finished seventh, then they finished sixth, then eighth again. That is what. So they tried revamping things in 2018 when they signed Gautam Gambhir. They were bringing a face back, but it didn't work out because he had to eventually step down from the captaincy in after 5 games. So they understood that what is it that they need to do. They need to bring in people back, and now what they've started doing is they've really worked on ground on cultivating a fan base and call it the DC Tony. They in 2019, I remember in one of the games they had selected a few players few fans who would travel, all sponsored by the team itself, to Mohali and then to Jaipur in a fan bus. They specifically selected those 40-45 fans and then marketed it very very well. There was a Daikin fan bus. Then in Jaipur, they were back at the team hotels. The fan were there to welcome the team. And then in 2020, even though there wasn't there wasn't a the fans involvement and the IPL were outside, but they did a lot of fan stories. They also did a story with me as to why I've been following the team since all this while. Then this year, when they were doing the jersey launch, they called some 10-15 fans who've been around with them. They know them because they have a different agency who does the on ground stuff for them. On the launch of the jersey, and they had Shreyas Iyer talking to them. So it's all about tapping into the emotion, and like I said, as long as the emotion is tapped into, you can sell anything, which is both good and bad in India. And yeah, I mean that statement speaks for itself in a lot of ways. That it's just upon the emotion that you can at the end of the day.
Very fascinating answer. So I was just thinking, like, what made you a Delhi fan first, and like, when were you a Delhi fan first? Was it since 2008?
So before the IPL, if you remember, there was an ICL that also had a Delhi.
Right. Yeah. Delhi Giants or Delhi Jets.
Delhi Jets, and there was Chandigarh Lions. So I used to watch the ICL as well, and that in that team, in that tournament, I used to just watch it for the cricket and hope okay whichever teams does well. But in 2008, when the IPL was started, they had Virender Sehwag, there was Gautam Gambhir also, and then there were a lot of good players. There was Glenn McGrath, there was De Villiers, there was Shoaib Malik, Mohammad Asif.
Mohammad Asif, yeah.
Mohammad Asif in 2007, 2008 was at his peak. So a lot of players to like. I think the 2009 Delhi team perhaps remains the best IPL team to not win a trophy because that team had players like Mithun Manas and Manoj Tiwari in reserves. Mithun Manas, Manoj Tiwari, Rajat Bhatia in reserves. There was
Right.
Daniel Vittori, Dirk Nanas, even Tejasvi Yadav, who was last year, fighting Bihar election. So the 2009 team, I certainly feel, was one IPL team that probably the best IPL team to not win the trophy, and along with it, the 2015 RCB team, because the 2015 RCB team was also a very good one, which probably deserved to win that trophy, but they were unlucky to not finish in the top two because of two rained out games, and then they lost to Chennai in Ranchi. So there was this fascination that okay, this team is from my city, and I've I've not been born in Delhi, but I've grown up in Delhi. Been in the city since 21 years now. So there was that Virender Sehwag in 2008 was at his prime. He scored that the triples. He scored his second triple century in Chennai in 2008 only. Gautam Gambhir was also going through a good phase. So there was no reason to not support a team which is from your city and has good players and is doing well. So since then, it's been that. But there have always been second or third favorite teams that have changed over the years. It was Rajasthan Royals at one point of time purely because of Rahul Dravid. Then there was a soft corner for the Punjab team because of my Punjabi background. But now I really can't stand the Punjab team because I think the way they play is just anti T20 in so many ways. What changes they do, what KL Rahul does, it's just something that gets on my nerves. So now I like Rajasthan Royals as my second favorite team because I really like the way how Sanju Samson approaches the game. I think he's one of the few players in the Indian setup who understands that the way T20 is supposed to be played and where he's going to bat, he cannot be consistent enough to to be impactful. He understands that he can if he can do the job in 4 or 5 games, that's good enough. So uh, I just like their team structure and the philosophy with they played because they understood how someone like a Steve Smith needed to go. They understood how someone like Ajinkya Rahane need to go. They released Tom Curran and other dead weights. So the way they approach the format is something which I really like. Unfortunately, they've had too many injuries this season, but still to win 3 games out of 7, which could have very easily been 4 out of 7 if Sanju had connected that last ball versus Punjab in the first game, is no mean.
Right. I'll stay on that and I'll talk to you about brand building for IPL teams, right? Because I find that if you have a mega auction every 3 years, it's kind of disconcerting and it's hard to build loyalty and build a brand because of that, because your players keep shuffling around. What do you think?
Challenge for sure. One of the reasons why IPL hasn't had the same level of what do you call it, the loyalty which an EPL has is that. But it is also important to keep the competitiveness in the IPL alive because if you don't have the mega auctions, then teams like Mumbai are going to dominate and keep finishing in the top three. Not that they still don't, but it at least gives other franchises a chance. It is obviously difficult, and that is why you have that five attention, which might go up, but yeah, it's a challenge for sure. It's a challenge for sure. But see, at the end of the day, what you also have to understand is, unlike football, there's a lot of you'd say the connect with individuals is very high in football, and teams are still able to bring have their youth academies and bring those players because in a lot of footballing leagues there's always another level. So if you support say a Manchester United, you are aware who's the player who's going to eventually make it to the senior team because there are leagues below the main league. In IPL there isn't that, and loyalties actually change because cricket is one team game which is the most individual game. So and a lot of teams do change their a lot of fans also do change their loyalties, but it's something that you can't help. So that is why you have to, like I said, tap into the emotion and that identity of a city. If you see what Mumbai have been doing over the years, and even Chennai, a lot of times before the first ball, Mumbai Indians handle is going to tweet Ganpati Bappa Moria. They do that. There's a lot of Tamil lingo in the Chennai Super Kings tweets, and sometimes it's people like me can't even understand it. But for them, it doesn't matter because they know that loyalty with their main fan base is it's something that someone like Kings 11 Punjab, or rather Punjab Kings, is trying to do, but they're not being able to do it because I don't think they've understood the Punjabi language and the lingo, and it's just not coming across well. And I think which is why they also get a lot of flack from the fan base of the Punjab Kings and the Punjabis who support the team. KKR doesn't even try a lot of Bengali stuff because they think
Right.
because they think that their fan base is because of Shah Rukh Khan. It's based on that probably. Uh, with RCB, that is starting to change a little bit, and with SRH, it is also changing now. You see, if you look back at the past year, uh, the way David Warner has been on social media, you'd say that he's probably
Yeah.
a a, a, a a local from Hyderabad or from Andhra Pradesh or Telangana, because he's dancing on all those songs which are famous in the Telugu film industry amongst that fan base. So again, like I keep saying, it's more about tapping into the emotion because uh, India is also that kind of a country where people also take a lot of pride in their identities of states, of cultures, of religion, etc., etc. So it's important for franchisees to do it, but I hope none of them overdo it at any point
I
of
was going to
time.
ask about that because sometimes when you're on social media, it just seems to get a little toxic at times. The fan bases for some of these teams. Well, let me rephrase that. Not the fan base itself, but specific sections of fans. They're very rabid, right, in their rhetoric, and sometimes it just feels a little too much. Do you see that as a downside, like going forward? Because I feel like in India, more than any other country, hero worship or just like focusing on the individual rather than the team is something that fans easily slip into, which then becomes the case of it almost like veers into online abuse and online harassment. Uh, do you see that as an issue, at least for the social media handles of these teams?
It is no doubt. If you also see, so which is what I was saying. The team that these social media handles of teams don't need to overdo it. If you look at the Mumbai Indians handles, the especially the Twitter handle, sometimes during a live game they put out tweets like, okay, Virat Kohli is off the field and Rohit Sharma is now the captain. And if say a wicket falls, they would tweet something like that, which I don't think. A franchisee handle should do it. If a fan does it, then you can understand it. But a franchisee handle doing that Virat Kohli is off the field, Rohit Sharma is the captain, and a wicket falls, then it is riling up, and it is. I don't think it's professional enough, especially when both the players are playing for India, which is why I said that teams don't need to overdo it because it leads to a lot of you know. This undercurrent or this connect where people start taking uh, their identities as identities of a region too seriously rather than the one identity that they need to look at. I feel honestly the only identity people living in India should be passionate about is being an Indian rather than being saying, okay, no, I am a Mumbai Indians fan, or I'm a Mumbaiker, or I'm a Chennai Super Kings fan, or I'm a Tamilian, or I'm a Punjabi, or I'm a Andhraite, or etc., or a Telugu, or Kannada. All these things. This can be sometimes a result of this because you know teams do tend to overdo it to build into that fan base. And what you said is correct, that teams also realize that their fan base is going to revolve around big players. So a lot of Rohit Sharma fans are just Mumbai Indian fans, and you see, Dhoni fans being CSK fans and Virat fans being RCB fans, and they do tend to abuse because forget abusing other fans. They just abuse other players. If you look at the comments on Avesh Khan's Instagram post of late, the day he did well against Chennai, he was abused by a lot of Dhoni fans. I, for one, don't think they are fans, because if they were truly Dhoni fans, they would actually appreciate the effort that he's put in. The same
Right.
thing would go with the fans of Rohit Sharma or Virat Kohli, because these cricketers have now reached at a stage where when a youngster does well against them, they are probably more happy because they understand that this player is probably going to represent the nation. If you look back at the last game between Punjab and Bangalore, Harpreet Brar dismissed Virat Kohli. He had his celebration and everything, but after the game, Virat Kohli was the first one to go up to him and congratulate him and have a word with him. And
Right.
these are the signs of great cricketers. They're never, excellence is never afraid of someone outdoing them, because they know that is the only way they can also keep improving. But fans don't need to don't seem to get it, and I think the only way this can be put a stop into by these fans is if probably the cricketers speak out and sort of say this, that I don't think out in the open, that I don't think anyone who uses my profile picture or my name in their Twitter or social media handle is going to abuse any other fan or any other player. I don't think he or she can be my fan. I think that can bring in a certain kind of change. But apart from that, I think these fan bases and the toxicity on social media has reached beyond a point where you can have just a sensible discussion, because a few people just seem to get a lot of fun out of abusing others for no reason. It's probably, you sometimes don't even know if they are young enough or these are educated adults. Sometimes they can be 16-year-olds who have different issues in life, and
Right.
probably they're taking out that frustration on you. So it's something that you have to learn to live with, because you obviously cannot control it.
Well, well said. Well, let me ask, like kind of wrapping this up, the IPL since its inception has really transformed the landscape of Indian cricket. And I think one of the biggest effects is just the engagement it drives among fans, just like you said, both bad but also good. It drives so much engagement when the cricket takes place. In fact, I feel that sometimes even more than international games, when India is playing another country during the IPL, even like fans who don't, people who don't watch Indian games, they come alive on social media. What is it about, based on your observation and just over following the IPL over the years? What is the biggest attraction for IPL that drives up not just the viewership but just the engagement of fans with social media handles, or just like getting into the spirit of IPL?
So I think for this you need to have a look at the origin of IPL, or origin of most sports-based leagues in India. If you look at it, when the IPL began, it was not just cricket; it was the amalgamation of two biggest things in India: cricket and Bollywood. People in India are just mad about these two things, and if you ask them why they are mad, they may not be able to explain it all. You have a lot of fan wars that keep happening for no good reason, but it is what it is. So the way IPL started, it was an amalgamation of these two things. A lot of people watched IPL because I am a Shah Rukh Khan fan. Shah Rukh Khan has a team, तो मेरे को उसके लिए मैच दे. Okay, I am a Preeti Zinta fan, so I have to support the Punjab team. I may or may not understand cricket, but because I like Preeti Zinta so much or Shah Rukh Khan so much, I want to watch that game. And then that is where people saw a few games, became interested, and then they started getting attached to that brand. I know a lot of people who have been cricket fans, but they've supported KKR not even being from Kolkata, just because of Shah Rukh Khan. And that's how that's been the case with even a Pro Kabaddi League. Why Pro Kabaddi League became bigger was because it had amalgamation of Bollywood. It had Amitabh Bachchan, buying a team. It had Sachin Tendulkar buying a team. Someone else buying a team. Similarly, in the ISL, John Abraham had a team. Abhishek Bachchan had a team. So whenever there is going to be an amalgamation of Bollywood, I think uh, it is going to bring in fans or people who are not your regular fans. I've always felt that any sport has three kind of fans. One is people like the three of us who probably watch the game very closely. We are not done with the game when the game's finished. We probably begin. Uh, for us, the game begins after the real game has finished, because we like to talk about the game, analyze it, and see what could have been done better. Then there's a second category of fans which watches the game occasionally. They understand the game and they are able to figure out, okay, this could have been different. But they don't take it too seriously. And then there is obviously the third kind of fan which comes alive during an India-Pakistan game or during a World Cup, or you could say
Yeah.
is when the IPL is on. I think what also helps is the timings. If you see, the IPL is happening, starts at early. Now it's starting at 7:30. Earlier they used to start at 8. A casual watcher who has nothing else to watch will come home and watch that game. And there's obviously, earlier I don't think there was that attachment, because with an Indian cricket game there used to be that attachment. And there didn't used to be a lot of India T20 games when the IPL began. India were predominantly playing test matches and ODIs. And see, test matches are anyway difficult to watch unless you're a fanatic, because uh, at the very least there are going to be 3 days of test cricket which will be on a weekday when you're working. So it's difficult to follow that. And similarly, even if an ODI game is day night, half of the game you are bound to miss if it's on a day, if it's on a weekday. With the IPL, because of the duration and everything, you know, uh, and see, the timing matters. You're having dinner and you're watching a game. If you like it, you'll continue watching it, or you switch something else. So these are the few things that have brought in the viewers. And then there are other things that have been around it: the team songs. The Indian team or any country's cricket team hasn't had a song or has a video. If you remember the way IPL started, KKR had a very good video. They had a dance and everything. Then it evolved to players dancing. If you look at the Delhi theme song video or the Chennai Super Video, it has players involved in doing those steps. Someone like an MS Dhoni, doing that whistle podu and doing a few steps. It is something that you usually don't see with other teams and with the national team. Then, like I said, sponsors coming in. When there are 10 sponsors, there's a radio partner and everything. When there are those 10 sponsors, they are obviously also going to hit you with those ads. There's a Zomato, like Zomato in, I think 2 years ago, they had a Zomato Premier League where you had to just predict who's going to win, and if you get that prediction right, you will get Zomato credits and then use it while ordering. So brands have also started to inculcate into the IPL, and hence some people just watch the IPL because of this. Okay, I'll get to earn something else, etc., etc. So it's like I said, it began with the amalgamation of Bollywood and cricket, and now it's just become a whole, what Sony actually called it at one point of time, India Ka Tyohar. It is that because brands like to connect with it in some way or the other. It's reached outside of India because there are players who are coming from outside. When sometimes the people who are from outside of India, they get to watch the games, they feel connected to it, the culture, and etc., etc. So a lot of things, some of them planned and some of them not planned, have worked for it, and that is why it's become so popular.
No, I was just adding that I think there's a lot of hunger for cricket content in India, and the IPL has been feeding that monster, and that's why it's so big. And there's a lot of secondary points of engagement with the IPL. You can have possible team combinations, you can have auctions, you can have fantasy, you can have Zomato points. So there's a lot of these touch points that drive up fan engagement.
Auction is
A lot
actually
of secondary ways. Yeah.
a very good thing. I don't know how I missed it, but auction is something which is actually a game changer, because if you so it was something that uh, India is that kind of a demographic where a lot of people don't even get the chance to witness a live auction, because the things that are being auctioned are that where a lot of Indians can't even afford it. So forget being able to watch a live auction. So IPL with that auction brought a different dynamic. It's a very good point that Himanish has raised. You see how teams are battling it out, and you sort of get a different thrill. And there have been stories where players. So if you look at the Pandya brothers, I think in one of the seasons, both of them combined had a price of 15 cr. The Pathan brothers had a price of 20 cr, and it resonates with the common Indian man because of their stories. The Pathan brothers used to live in one room in a masjid in Baroda. From there to earning 20 cr is a story that sells. It's a story which is also inspirational.
Right.
And aspirational. It's something which everyone feels good about, and there have been plenty of such stories in the IPL. If you look at the story of Harpreet Brar, if not for getting a contract in 2018, he would have probably gone to Canada and be driving a taxi Same you could have said for an Arshdeep. So a lot of such stories as well, where there, and some of them have been just one season wonders. If you look at Swapnil Asnodkar, if you look at a Paul Valthati, but these stories also have had a lot to add to that connect, because somewhere you feel that okay, it's if nothing, at the least there are some people who do feel that okay, if I can make it to one IPL, I'll probably earn enough for the rest of my life, which is very very aspirational for any Indian middle class family, because
Yeah, it's an aspirational wonder story for a lot of Indians, right? And
because
yeah,
the most middle class thing in India is about to sort of earning enough so that your future generation can have enough and you are able to live a settled life. And to see that someone can earn that much money in just 2 months is huge. That value and that story is huge for people to connect with.
right.
Well, on that note, Gurkirat, I really appreciate your time with us today. And, for all the reasons that you mentioned, I think, especially with all that's going on in India right now, I think the very fact that it really unites Indians in one thing, that is taking sides and, competing with each other as to which team is better. But it's just, I feel it's a good distraction. Given all that is going on, and hopefully the IPL will continue not just to provide good cricket on the field, but just a good source of distraction and entertainment for people who are looking for something like that during this time.
Just want to add one thing. I think it was a uniting force. Cricket was a uniting force when I was growing up, but I don't think it is a uniting force anymore, because although sports by nature is something that is supposed to transcend boundaries. There are enough examples in history where sportspersons have taken a particular stand and they've been backed. Even in India, you've had people get behind a team and everything. If you look back at the year 2008, just after the Mumbai attacks, there was a test match that was being played in Chennai. The team won, and they dedicated it to the victims of the Mumbai attacks. Then there have been many such cases and examples. But what has happened is that now the Indian youth, particularly, they understand that when someone is in a position of influence and in power, as a cricketer or as a movie star or whatever, they expect certain responsibilities. May not be those responsibilities on paper, but maybe moral responsibilities out of the people who they look up to as stars. So earlier, what you would say, that cricket was a uniting force where people would sort of stand cricketers. I don't think that is the case anymore, because people, even in India, have started to sort of differentiate the cricketer and the person. They it's not more, it's not anymore the same where just because you're a good cricketer, people are going to get behind you. Audiences and masses have begun to realize that it may be a very small shift, but I think it's an important shift. And I think it is something which should happen, because at the end of the day, I've always believed that cricketers and movie stars are just artists, and they might be good, and they might be excellent at their field, but at the end of the day, whatever they are doing is for their own. They're not doing something different for the society or being selfless or anything. There are a lot more Indians who do that, who probably deserve to be heroes. So I think that realization is slowly coming in, but it's not become a normal realization yet, but the shift is there. So I wouldn't say it's a uniting force anymore, but it's a good distraction for sure. It's not a uniting force, I feel.
Very well said.
Well, that's it for this episode of The Last Wicket. A special thanks to Gurkirat for his time, and you can find him on Twitter at GurkiratSGill. Meanwhile, do rate and subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes, follow us on your social media feeds, and do leave us a voice message if you would like to be featured on the show. Thank you for listening to us, and from all of us here at The Last Wicket, stay safe and stay healthy.